Hello and welcome to another huge update interview, and currently I am with Rainbow. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Rainbow, and this is my wife, Megzie.
Hi.
And we run a YouTube channel on
YouTube.
on YouTube for Let's Plays.
So, yeah, we were just discussing, as like normally I like to do a little warm up, and we were just talking about the fact that you started off as a YouTube channel. And I just want to just talk about like the history a bit, like how you started and.
Well, I've always been really interested in interactive type of social networking where you have like kind of a relationship with the people that are following you, or who are you following with them and such like that. And during like the last maybe 10 years or so, both of our Megzie and I, like both of our lives have been kind of in this like constant flux of things. And when we felt like, when depression hit, and when we when jobs were lost, school was over, things were just kind of going crazy, we'd always find this little bright spot in an internet personality. And actually, the first one was actually a comic reviewer. Most people might know him. He was from Channel Awesome, or is on Channel Awesome.
No, it's no more.
Oh, that is no more. It was Linkara. Like,
yeah.
I was a huge. I still am. I don't watch him as much anymore, but huge fan of Linkara. And I actually got to meet him during a really bad time in my life, and I just cried all over him like an idiot, and told him how much like I appreciated that I could come home to his videos and it would be okay. Like, I could laugh, I could just forget what was going on and just be okay for a little while. And that moved into my love of video games. Like I fell in love with YouTubers. I thought that they were doing such a fantastic job because that was the medium that I really connected with. And I found 666 the Heartless 666 on YouTube, which is actually, he's in London too, somewhere, I don't know where, but he's an English YouTuber. He hasn't updated in a while, but like I saw like that was kind of like my light in the darkness sort of thing. It's like, that's what I want to do, is just I want to be that kind of person for somebody else. So when Megzie and I started this channel, it was under the assumption that it was going to be that, hey, you want to come over to our house and hang out and play a video game? I mean, we'll probably suck at it, but
Who cares?
But who cares? It's going to be fun. You can make fun of me. It's all right. It was that just come over to our place and hang out and we'll play a video game together.
That's the atmosphere
that was the atmosphere I wanted. And I guess you could say that the gimmick, if you want to call it that, was that we're queer. It's, and we don't shy away from that at all. It's very explicit. We make some really dumb jokes, but
Great jokes. What are you talking about?
Great jokes. Just have great jokes. But I mean, a lot of people have told me so far that that's totally the atmosphere they get, which is just it's hanging out at a friend's house. And that's kind of what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a channel where, I could just do the thing that I love to do and maybe make somebody else happy. Like, somebody who's having a bad day, I can make them laugh. And that's kind of all I wanted with this channel, is that I wanted to be that person for somebody else that other people were to me when I was going through a bad time. That I really wanted to play a lot of video games.
Yeah, and something that comes through on your videos, you touch on it every now and again. It's something I kind of wanted to explore with you, was your history of actually playing video games for you and Megzie. Growing up, both of you talked about like both you had a very restricted amount time with video games. So I just wondered like what actually drew you to them and what kept you coming back to them.
Megzie was a little more like her family wasn't as, I don't want to say repressive. That's not really a restricted. Yeah, she wasn't as restricted as I was. She actually had, like, you had a game.
Oh yeah, like I kind of grew up with video games, So, like, I had kind of the classic, I don't want to say classic childhood, classic progression of games, but, like, I grew up with, like, Mario, and then when I was older, I got a PlayStation and moved on to, like, JRPGs and the Final Fantasy series, and so I never really stopped gaming. My mom was really, kind of skeptical of video games. Like, she thought they were a waste of time and money and stuff, but my dad was just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever she wants, sure. And, like, I remember the Christmas I got a Super Nintendo was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. So, like, but Rainbow, sorry. Rainbow, well, you can tell your own history how you didn't really have video games.
I didn't have video games at all. I had, like, which is really funny because my dad was one of the first people that actually got computers, like personal computers, way back in the day, because he's an artist and does professional graphic design. So we had a computer, and we had those little stupid, very early games.
Computer games.
When
there was a distinction between computer games and video games.
Yeah, like we had, the point click stuff, but they weren't really they weren't as interactive, but I've always had those, sort of. But the consoles, my dad was very like, no, it'll turn you into an idiot. Those are for stupid people. I don't know why. He never gave me an explanation other than, they're for idiots. And then I remember very distinctly one Christmas, I got a Game Boy because I really wanted to play Pokemon. And my mom got me a Game Boy Color. My dad could have killed me because I literally, from the moment I opened up the box to, 7 a.m. the next morning,
yeah.
I was playing that game.
Hell yeah.
I played the living crap out of that. And then from there, I kind of went towards, I think, at that point, I got into high school, and I was introduced to Diablo. And I think that kind of sealed it for me because I got Diablo. I begged my mom to get me Diablo for the obviously for the the PC, and I played that so much, and then got Diablo 2, and then from there, kind of I was able to kind of eke in video games and just kind of go from there. Like The Sims followed afterwards. And such. And then when I was 18, I finally begged, they asked me what I wanted for my birthday. I'm like, please get me a PlayStation 2, please, for the love of God. And finally, because I was 18 and I could no longer be an idiot, I guess, they got me the PlayStation 2, and I got
Kingdom Hearts.
I got Kingdom Hearts and GTA Vice City, I think, something like that. But and then it just kind of went from there. I've gradually just been getting more into video games, and from that point on,
see, was that when I was 18, I started working at GameStop, and so I worked there for, 3 years,
something like that.
So I got a lot of exposure to video games in my early adult life. So,
and I was playing catch up.
Yeah, and I'm still catching her up. I'm introducing her to Mario games, which she seems to like. Okay. I
never played Final Fantasy either.
That's next. Final Fantasy's next.
She's going to try and get me to Final Fantasy, which is going to be hard because I'm not really an RPG, turn-based RPG person, just because I get really overly frustrated with it. But I do I have time to tell a story? Because this is a really funny story.
Yeah, go for it.
And I'm going to tell it. You don't get to tell it, Megzie. This is the 10.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, so Final Fantasy X, right? It's one of her favorite games. And again, Final Fantasy, didn't grow up with it, wasn't my thing, and it's still kind of the turn-based system is still kind of weird for me. So
I thought it would be a good one to introduce her to the series with, because the battle system's not that hard to follow. The story's really basic and kind of stupid. So I thought this is easy to understand. It's not you don't have the huge philosophical, I guess you kind of do, but it's not like Final Fantasy VII where you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on the whole time.
Right.
So I thought this would be a good one to introduce her to the series with, and then we can go from there.
Right. So she's getting through it, and I'm kind of she thinks I'm kind of half paying attention because I'm doing other things while watching it, and just kind of I look up at the screen every now and then. And then we get to the famous Blitzball tournament,
Oh yeah.
And she's like, and she's just like, oh great, the tournament. Well, and then she explains to me that, you know, this is the last, like the whole, of course, the whole game we're hearing that this is the last one for Waka. You know, he's not going to do anymore.
He's retiring
after this. You know,
and Titus is all like, "No, we're gonna win. We're gonna win."
So then Megzie explains to me, "No, it's I'm probably not going to win. It's really hard. You need the Jack shot. I don't have the Jack shot. It's not going to work." And I turn to her, and this horrified look on my face, like, "You have to win. It's for Waka. He's retiring.
This is his last chance. You have to win. You have to do it for Waka." And I was like, "Whoa! I didn't even realize you were paying attention. I didn't think you care, because I sure didn't."
Now here's the funny part: without the Jack shot, she won.
For anybody that is not familiar with Final Fantasy X, that tournament is impossible to win. You have to really, really work at it, and so I was like, "I can't believe I won." She's like, "See, it wasn't that hard."
It wasn't that hard.
You have no idea how lucky I was. Like, that was a fluke. That was a fluke if there ever was one. But that was her introduction to Final Fantasy.
That was my introduction to Final Fantasy, and then that became like a thing of like, do it for Waka.
So whenever there's something really hard that seems impossible, it's no, you gotta do it for Waka.
Do it for Waka. It's 3 days from retirement.
Oh,
That's my stupid story.
that's fantastic. No, that's fantastic. So with that, I'm gonna bring up like something that's obviously quite prevalent on your channel. I just wanted to, because obviously we're gonna keep talking about a bit more about your history and all this. Just what is it about horror games that you keep going back to?
Oh god, I love horror. It's we haven't actually played too many on my channel, which we're fixing. It's like because you know all of our stuff has to have a title card, which is drawn by the lovely Megzie. But horror is such a fascinating genre to me. Like I've always loved, like, give me the scary stuff. I've always wanted to go see horror movies and and all that fun stuff. What?
Oh, I have a point when you're done.
Oh, okay. Sorry, she was waving at me. It's there's such a deep there's a lot of deep meaning behind horror, like the psychological horror. I'm not so much into the gore. Like, I don't mind gore, but like Saw, that didn't interest me too much. I mean, I know it's like scary to have like a guy that you can't see, you know, telling you to cut your own hand off, but it's more the psychology that there's something out there that you can't explain. That's why I love Lovecraft so much, is there's this vast emptiness of deep horror that you have no concept, like it is literally beyond your imagining what that level of horror is, that you can't handle it. Like, you just go insane from it. And there's something very unique about stories that can scare you and make you think. And I think a lot of horror does do that. Some better than others. But I find there's a lot of deep stories that come from horror. It's one of my favorite series, or a couple of my favorite series. Silent Hill did it beautifully. Like, the first four, I know everybody hates the fourth game, but like the first 4 games, the narrative behind those games were spectacular. Like, and everybody praises 2, which, you know, it's also very good. But like, I think that, like, even some of the later games, what is it? Shattered Memories.
And
Downpour. Like, well, Downpour's gameplay was kind of weird, but like the stories behind that's the kind of psychological horror that I really enjoy. The Fatal Frame series was also really good. Again, the gameplay kind of got like weird after a while, but like, you know, it becomes less scary the more times you do it. But the stories behind those were always like, I kid you not, I cried every single Fatal Frame game, or the first 3, I cried at the end. And I cry, I know I cry really easily, but there's just such meaning behind a lot of horror games. And it's more than just the like, boo, scary. For me, anyway. What was your point? I'm sorry.
Okay. I've been like trying to remember my train of thought here.
I'm sorry.
Okay. For me, I actually didn't get into horror until I met Rainbow. And before that I was kind of ambivalent toward it, but I kind of tend to be kind of ambivalent toward genres. I'm more concerned about execution rather than content, I suppose. And for me, when I got into it, I found that horror was the one kind of genre that was the hardest to do right and the most effective when done right. And so, like, when you have a game or a movie that really, really scares you, that actually, like, does its job and doesn't just put in what you expect for a horror movie or a horror game, which is lots of jump scares and stuff, when it actually puts the thought in to try and actually scare you, when it's done right, I think it's the most effective. And I find it interesting how I don't know if I can really say this about other genres of games, because I haven't paid as close attention to them as I have the horror genre in the past few years, but I feel as though it's the genre that's most evolving and kind of pays attention to trends within its own medium. Like when before you had Amnesia came out in 2011, I think 2010, 2011,
something like that.
And it was like one of the first, I don't want to call it mainstream because I think it was technically indie, but one of the first horror games in the popular consciousness to not have any combat, like none at all. You could say that Fatal Frame doesn't have any combat, but it really does. It just doesn't have any fighting. So, and after that, you got more games that didn't have combat, like kind of following that. And this could just be how I have perceived the landscape of horror games as I observe them coming out, but I think it's really interesting. And now, last year, Five Nights at Freddy's came out, which again had no combat and also had you not able to move. And now I think we're seeing more games that are going to employ those kinds of mechanics. Same with Slender Man.
Slender Man was another one.
When that came out, you suddenly had a lot of games that had the collection mechanic. So I think in terms of game mechanics, it's the genre. I hate the word genre. I don't know why. It's the
it's a section of gaming that's most evolving quickly.
It's most evolving, and it's employing new creative ways to try and be effective. And when it is effective, I feel like it's very effective, super effective. Even.
Super effective.
So that's why I like horror. I also like being scared. I like a lot. Like Rainbow is such a chicken.
Shut up.
She cannot deal with being scared. I laugh my head off. Like when I get scared, I have so much fun. So
yeah, it's fun to be scared.
But I don't scare easy, and so when I do get scared, it's really fun. Like I played through Fatal Frame and was not scared at all. Like it was fun. And it was kind of spooky, I guess, but I didn't really feel scared. I felt like, oh, ghost. Okay. Oh, it got me. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. It's dead. We're good. Moving on. Meanwhile, Rainbow's in the corner crying because she's so scared.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So that's horror.
That's horror in a nutshell.
I just want to bring up something that you just may have not realized what you were just saying there, but you basically just pointed out most of the games you just mentioned are all indie games of the last 5 years.
Cool.
And that is, well, that may be one of the main reasons of why horror right now is so quickly evolving, is because this mainly came out when when what was it? It was when BioShock Infinite finished,
mm-hmm.
and a few years Irrational Games closed.
Yeah.
A lot of them moved on and started their own little companies.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them started to come out saying that one of the things they couldn't do in BioShock Infinite was they couldn't have non-combat.
Really?
And they wanted to put it in so much, because those guys went from there to make, some of them went to make Gone Home.
Ah!
That's right! That's a game we're playing. That's on the list. I want to play that.
And there's a new one coming out. Can't remember the name of it, and it's annoying me. But it's another exploration game where you play as a blind person, and you have to use sound to navigate the world by you use a stick and you'll hit things, and it'll make the sound echoes. So you'll see like Daredevil vision is the best way to put it, and it looks amazing, and it's built on that premise.
Oh my god, disability representation and creative mechanics. Holy crap.
I'm getting chill, like literally. I'm getting chills. That sounds amazing.
But yeah, and like another thing of like the fact that like Five Nights at Freddy's came out last year and it's got 4 sequels.
Yeah, I don't know how Scott does that. Like, wow, he punched those out real quick. And like one thing I actually want to bring up is that Five Nights at Freddy's is actually very kid friendly when you think about it. Like, probably not the story, but when I was a kid, I didn't really pick up on story so much as I picked on, you know, the specifics. Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I used to watch that when I was like 10 years old. It took me years right over my head. So like I didn't know there was like, you know, a bunch of sex in it until I watched it like when I was 13. I was just like, wow. But like
with Five Nights, like we have a lot of people because we run this artist alley business, and so we have a lot of people, these children that come up and get really excited for Five Nights. And at first I was like, where are these kids' parents? Who's letting them
play these games?
And I realized that there's really no gore. It's very cartoony. So it's, you know, it's pretty kid friendly. Like we as adults get, you know, the crap scared out of us, but I can imagine a kid watching it thinking it's just silly and funny.
And probably scary because of the jump scares, but it's fairly, you know, there's no gore, there's no blood.
There's very little of what you would call violence.
Yeah, you don't really have violence. You have, you know, boo, you know, jump scare boo. And, you know, the story and some eyeballs. Like,
but eyeballs are funny.
You don't really, it's not gory. So it's a very interesting, like that when we were at a convention in Indianapolis, Markiplier, you know, everybody knows who that is.
Yeah.
He was
a man who needs no introduction.
Him, Jacksepticeye, and the other guys, they were guests there. So there were a lot of their fans there. And there were a bunch of little kids walking around in Five Nights stuff. And it got me thinking, it's like, that's an entire generation that are growing up with this really good, you know, whatever you think about Five Nights, it was a unique premise and it scared a lot of people. And here's a lot of kids growing up to appreciate that. And then as they get older, they'll realize how deep the story goes. And it's going still. Like, we're not going to get the end of it until October 31st.
Next month, yeah.
So it kind of gave me this like little hope in my heart going, it's like, we might have an entire generation of gamers that can appreciate that type of horror, the horror that sticks with you and that was done correctly. So, you know, whatever you think about the mechanics and like the, you know, the jump scares afterwards, like, yeah, if you played it multiple times, it stops being as scary. But it just gets annoying. It's stupid buzzing and Balloon Boy.
But that could be said of any game.
That's almost every game, you know, after, you know, replayability. There's only so many times you can jump scare someone with the same stupid jump scare. But, I mean, it's something to appreciate, if anything.
Yeah, you brought up something that I definitely want to talk to you ladies about, and that's your cons that you go to, your conventions. You go to so many.
We have 5 more this year.
We have 5 more just this year. We actually, you know, Megzie does all of my title cards, and it's, you know, but on the side, she's you know, she's doing other art, which is why we haven't been putting, you know, a lot out recently. But yeah, we basically print all of the stuff here except for the charms, and we have a variety of stuff that's all her art, all stuff that she drew, and we go to these, you know, it's mostly anime conventions, just because that's where kind of the market is. And
I like anime.
Yeah, anime's okay. And, you know, we go to different conventions all around the U.S., and we sit at this table for, you know, 12 hours and wait for people to walk by so we can smile at them and say, please buy our art in the nicest possible way. But it's a fun job.
It's right now it's my full-time job, and it's fun. I was in art school for all of a semester because of, you know, since I was a kid, I wanted to be an artist. And I was in art school for all of a semester, absolutely hated it. And so I kind of decided to do art on my own terms and make it a living on my own terms, which is I think pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It's fun, but it's a lot of stress, but it's still fun. And like, you learn a lot of skills. Like, it's not just art. Like you learn a lot of skills running an art business. Like you basically have to do everything, which is fun, which is fine. But
yeah, we do all of it. We do the printing, we do the marketing, everything. Like pack up the car, drive out there. We don't do planes at all because I refuse. And and you learn a lot about people. Like you get to talk to. That's actually one of the best parts for me is like when you see somebody who sees, like right now we have Five Nights Charms, we have Outlast Charms, which is our favorite horror game, and I think we've got these little. They're the kawaii set, which in Japanese kawaii means spooky. So she's got these
kawaii.
Sorry,
kawaii.
Kawaii. Different from kawaii. It's kawaii, and it's like a brain that's been chewed on, but with a sad face. A chainsaw with blood on it. That's got a pink chainsaw that's got a kissy face. So they're really cute. But you get people that come up and go, "Oh my God, you have this," and you can talk to them about it. So you get to talk to a lot of people, and I've actually been promoting my channel through that. I was like, "Hey, do you like Five Nights? Me too. Here, check this out."
We're like, "Hey, Outlast. Hey, you should check out our Let's Play.
You should check out our Let's Play. Let's talk about Eddie." That kind of a thing. So it's a way for us actually to keep up with popular culture, because you can always tell what's popular in anime if you just look who's cosplaying.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to Megzie the other month when she mentioned something. She mentioned that she wasn't seeing much of a Kill la Kill on the cosplay scene. And to be fair, being in Britain, I say it's a bit different because I go to a number of conventions. I used to help a friend who runs a few over here, and it was always fun to. It was weird for us because one, I'm into anime. My friend who runs these anime conventions is not that into anime. He liked one show in the 90s, and that was it. That was it for him. But like we were just seeing stuff, and I could recognize like, oh, that's from Kill la Kill, that's from Attack on Titan, and it's like, and then he's just sat there just going like, it's just girls in scantily clad clothing. It's anime, man. It's like,
yeah.
Welcome to anime.
Man, Kill la Kill is such an interesting kind of case study because like it started airing not this past May, but the May before.
2013.
Yeah.
It came out.
And, like, it was everywhere. It just exploded, and people could not get enough of Kill la Kill, and now it's, like, gone. Like, I've never seen a show peak and then be gone that fast. And, like, we go to so many of these, so we can, we get a pretty good idea. Like, Attack on Titan kind of also did the same thing, but Attack on Titan's still going strong.
Yeah, you still see a lot of people cosplaying
fan base
that.
for it, but Kill la Kill not so much. And so it was just like, this is crazy. I hate this is absurd. There we go. This is absurd, and it was such an interesting case study for me. And like I did several pieces, and I wanted to do a third one, and I'm like, I don't know if I should finish this third one because it's gone. But I'm like, no, I started it. I should finish it.
And it's Mako. You gotta
and it's my favorite character.
Mako.
So yeah, Kill la Kill just was there, and now it's gone.
Yep.
And maybe because it was only a 26 episode or 24 episode show, but there are plenty of 24 episode shows that still have. It was weird. It's such a.
It's so funny to go to the conventions, and like one convention will have something completely different from the last convention, or you'll see a trend. It's very interesting to keep up with the pop culture that way of like what other people are doing.
I'm also really glad that we were in this business when Rainbow started her channel, because like you see people that kind of just start out and they don't really know, like they kind of go to conventions because they want to promote their channel or their comic or whatever, and so they just kind of sit there and not really knowing what to do, which is fine because that's how you suck at something before you get good at something. But like I'm glad that we can kind of weave this into what we'd already established. And
yeah, it just kind of folded itself in of like, hey, we're already doing this. Let's take it one step further and do one of my projects, and it's fit in quite well. We've had a really good response with it.
All right. You mentioned Megzie. You mentioned that you you did art college and you dropped out and you took it on your own terms. It's interesting to hear because, well, just for the fact of like, I can't think of a single case in which that normally isn't the actual way of how most artists begin. Normally just take it on their own terms, because being it through education myself, I can definitely attest to, you kind of have to take it on your own terms, otherwise you're not actually learning. And I was just wondering like how that actual like the drawing process from there to now has actually progressed for you.
Well, I'm basically completely self-taught. Like I mean, you could count that semester in art school, but I really didn't learn anything. I kind of just spent the time just slacking because I didn't want to do anything.
Well, they were training you for Raven.
There's a in town here where we live. There are 2 game studios, 2 or 3. One of them is Ravensoft, and they did things like X-Men Legends and a couple other titles. I haven't been keeping up with them. I've been bad.
You would have been put on making Call of Duty maps.
Yeah.
That's what they've ended up as.
Right. Because that one. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I know.
But so the college was like basically trying to train people to work at this one company, and I didn't want to work for that one company. My dream for a long time was to be an animator at Pixar, but I hated so much being told what to do, which sounds really funny, but like art is like my passion and like what I do for fun and what I do to relax and what gives me meaning and pleasure in my life. And so for someone to dictate that thing that meant so much to me was just like, I don't want to do this. I hated drawing. I barely drew anything that semester even.
I remember that. That was so sad.
Because like I would draw all day for my assignments, and then I'd come home and the very last thing I wanted to do was draw more. So like, so I decided, I kind of took some time off trying to figure out what to do. Then I actually went back to a 4-year university, which I just graduated from, but I studied East Asian Studies, Japanese language, and gender and women's studies. So I used my art to as a way to support myself through normal college. And it was nice because, I'd be working all day, but I'd be working on things that weren't drawing, and so I could come home every day and draw, and it was again the thing that relaxed me and made me happy. And even though I am doing it to pay the rent, and to some extent, I have to still draw. People tell me if I'm taking commissions or whatever. It's still all on my terms, and so
F authority.
Yeah.
That was super fascinating to hear because, well, I've drawn in the past. I've drawn for companies. I've freelanced. I've done all of it. So I love talking to other artists about like how they approach it, especially freelance. I found it the most stressful time in my life, just trying to get clients and just trying to keep money just barely coming in.
Oh, it's tough. And like this week I was trying to get pre-orders so I could get some charms produced. And just, like, doing the promotion was just, like, pulling teeth. It was so tough. And I was like, I really should be doing this. But I was like, no, because it's fun. And I like it. And blah, blah, blah. And, yeah.
All the things you tell yourself in the middle of the night.
This is fun, damn it. You like doing it. No, you like doing it.
Right.
But, like, yeah. It is cool to talk to other artists and find out how they, especially with like Artist Alley and conventions, like how'd you get into this circus? Like and like what made you start? And there's always a person that comes up to my table and asks me like how do you get started doing this? Because I draw and I want to do it. And I'm like, well, it's a lot of work. So be prepared for a lot of work for not a lot of payout at first, but it'll pay off in the end.
Right on. Yeah. I can't say any more than that. Anybody else I've ever talked to, and anybody who asks me the exact same questions, I always have to give the same answer of just that. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but you know what? If you want it, you're going to do it, and it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, something else that I want to talk about, and you mentioned it early on. You pretty much kicked it off as your main descriptor, as your gimmick, as you said.
The gimmick in quotation marks. The gimmick.
Is the fact that you are two lesbians in America who have just recently married. So I want to say congratulations anyway.
Well, thank you so much.
And I just wanted to ask, just like, one, how do you feel perceived in gaming yourselves, and how do you actually feel like gaming perceives gender as a whole?
Oh boy.
I mean, we can break this down just a little bit more simpler, just like. Or just pass it out just slowly. I mean,
yeah, we'll get big.
Hang on, let me pull out Stuart Hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
we're gonna need their help for this one.
It's like, as far as personally goes, we're not really big yet in the general consciousness of the internet. We're pretty small fish, but it was like I hesitate to bring up the big elephant in the internet, which
what did I call it? I had such a good name for it.
You had a really good name for it.
I forgot what it was.
You're gonna remember it like
where's my phone?
3:00 in the morning. But it was like when we started our channel, like we had a break for a little while because life got in the way, and then as we were starting it back up again, Gamergate hit.
Yeah.
Interactive Entertainment Nixon Scandal Tagapash.
That was what, because you didn't want to call it Gamergate anymore.
Because I didn't want to get indexed. Yeah.
Yeah. But like there was I know that for us personally, we kind of got worried, like, because we've got a couple of things against us. Queer women who have opinions on the internet is kind of not really. Like when that entire like storm was going on, like
I was scared. Honestly,
yeah.
It wasn't even a worry. I was frightened.
Yeah, and the fact that we went to conventions where you talked about, like, where people came up and talked to you for a while, I look back on it and think, well, it seems like a silly fear to have, but every time a gentleman, whether he was nice or not, came up to the table, I tensed. Like there was an underline of like, are you gonna start something? Because we had guys come up and start things with us.
Oh, they regretted it though.
They regretted it, but because Megzie is extremely articulate when she's upset.
Also, I'm a lawyer's daughter, so I know how to argue.
Yeah, but there was a weird underlying threat that was present, and like I know a lot of women who are also huge gamers. They kind of said the same thing. Like, I'm worried when they come up and look at my game stuff that I'm going to get talked at. So we didn't experience anything on a personal level except when we were defending other friends. And like we tried to stay out of it for the most part. We had our opinions and we had our, this is where we stand on this and we're not moving from it. But we didn't get any backlash personally. So it was this like, but there was definitely an underlying, like, I don't know how much we can do.
It was really hard to watch violence done to other women and wonder, like, well, one, realize that we couldn't do anything.
There was really nothing we could do.
And that, like, we could be next. And, like, because if I know the kind of the general narrative of Gamergate and how it went down, but from what I understand, one of the main victims of the harassment campaign, which is what I'm going to call it because that's what it is, was just supporting a friend, or was just standing up for, or just kind of, it wasn't even a main target until later because she had the audacity to have an opinion, and I'm like, gee, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And
because before that, we were very vocal about how we felt about, women in gaming, gender identity, LGBTQIA rights, plus rights, like that sort of thing. We were very, I know it's a bad word now, but social justice warrior types. But
I was a paladin. I was social justice paladin.
You were a paladin. You charged head in and just went for it. And
I told people about themselves.
Yeah, but when, that happened and, there were multiple people, some people that we knew that were being targeted, there was this, like, weird sort of, I don't know if I want to say
And
anything.
especially queer women.
Yeah, queer women kind of got a huge brunt of it too.
Not so much in the queer, not so much as the LGB part, but the T part. And
a lot of trans women were targeted. A lot of them were outed. Like it was, and those are the people that we know. These were our friends. These were our community, and it was scary when when it first happened. And here's us with this channel on YouTube that we're trying to get off.
Games,
and it's like, I just want to play games and talk about them. I mean, this parts in this game is really cool, but there's a problem here that we maybe should talk about. No, we're not gonna. Okay, don't dox me, please.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of underlying fear that was going on, and we've been really, I hesitate to say lucky, but we haven't experienced a lot of that online. I honestly think it's just because we're not that big. We don't have a lot of people following us, but there was that fear that it could.
I think what really scared me was when Felicia Day spoke up and said that she hasn't said anything about it because she's afraid of getting doxxed, and then she got doxxed.
And then immediately got doxxed.
And it just kind of like, I know your question wasn't about Gamergate, but it's hard to talk about.
It's all right. As soon I've had a few interviews and it's turned this way, and it's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's what's happened.
The biggest social event that's happened around video games, and so it's really hard to talk about video games at all without talking about it.
Well, especially when you're talking about representation and how that was such a big deal. And I forgot what the second half of this question was. Gender in general.
Basically, the second one was trying to go into a lighter side of it, just like within games. Like, how do you think it's represented?
Like we tend. Can I?
Oh yeah, go for it. By all means.
Like I've watched all of like Anita Sarkeesian's work, and I agree with her for the most part. And so like I feel like video games are really important, and I feel like not like they need to be criticized, but that they can be better. So it's not necessarily that they need to be stopped or they need to be censored or whatever, but they can be so much better.
They can be so much more.
There's just so much potential in this medium. And so to have it really cater to one very specific demographic and kind of leave everybody else out, I'm thinking like this medium has so much more to offer. And so when people say that people like Feminist Frequency want to stop games, I'm like, no, she wants to make them better. And so like
this medium is literally unlimited. You can do almost anything in this medium. I think that's why I love games so much as a whole, because you can do anything. You can be anything. You can pick up and be a box and have that box be entertaining.
So I think that like as far as gender representation in video games goes, we have a long way to go. But I think it doesn't really reflect a problem in video games so much as a cultural problem as a whole. And so I think this is just a kind of a symptom of a greater problem. And again, I could get Judith Butler out and we can talk about, or not Judith Butler, Bell Hooks, that's it.
There, yeah. No, that's okay.
You get Bell Hooks out and talk about it all day. But
I think I go away with it very positive, though. Like, it's got a long way to go. Video games.
But I feel like we're going in the right direction. Despite everything that's happened in the past year, I feel like...
I'm so optimistic.
Yeah, like I can't help but be optimistic because there's so much potential here.
Yeah, there's like it's slow going, and it will always be slow going when it comes to these sorts of issues that have been so prevalent for so many years
and are so multifaceted and so complex and so hard to understand, even for someone like me that actually studied these kinds of issues in school and got a degree in it.
Yeah, and so it will be slow going, but I can't help but look at the game community as a whole and just not be positive. I mean, Gamergate, for as much as someone talks about it, it was just this small part of the gaming community as a whole. Like that hardcore niche of Gamergaters. And yes, they made a lot of noise. And yes, they did a lot of really cruel things, and they're continuing to do a lot of cruel things, but they're such a small fraction of it. And like the people that I talk to, the people who I have met through my channel, like that small.
We talked to so many.
I talk to
gamers,
so many female gamers. I talk to so many like male gamers. I talk to gamers. Like they cease to be male and female in the sense that we have to differentiate, and they all feel the same way, which is things can be better, but they're going in the right direction. And I think that representation is extremely important. And as soon as enough people make noise about it, and they are, like, it's starting, it's beginning, and it's getting louder. Like the representation of the, we don't want to take away your toys. I love Metal Gear Solid as much as the next person, and I don't want to change Metal Gear Solid, but I want the future to be better. I want there to be more than just a white dude.
Yeah.
With stubble in as your main pro tag that's gonna charge in and get everybody. We can be better than Gears of War. I don't want to change Gears of War. It was great the way well, not great. It was an okay game, but you want to blow stuff up. That's great. I don't want to change. Nobody wants to change that. Nobody wants to change the video games that have already come out. There are ways that they could have been better, but they're out. And
we're not going to take away your toys. We're going to give you more toys.
Yeah, here's more toys. Here's fun. Here's better toys. Funner toys. And look, the person across the street that maybe couldn't have seen themselves in that toy, the one that you've been playing with for years, here's a toy that they can see themselves in. And it's like that's why games like Dragon Age kind of hit me really hard, is that I could play a character that I could identify with, and it was my choice. And I could go after a character, I could romance a character that was my choice. And, however much, and that kind of representation matters. And I think it's really important to have that sort of representation. But it doesn't mean I want to change the games that came before. I have opinions about the games that came before, but that's why I think I'm so positive about this community and the direction it's going, is that people are listening. It's slow going and it takes time, but people are listening and they're understanding, or they're trying to understand. And I think that's really, really important, because that's where change starts. And we went really long on that tangent. I apologize.
That's all right. There was a quick summary that I do want to point out, because it does tie into a previous comment that we were making earlier about horror games, towards this subject that we've just discussed now, and that's the fact of, if we look at how, like we mentioned earlier, of like all the current best horror games are all indie developed. Mm-hmm. They're all small, niche little projects that have come away from the AAA industry and done their own thing in their own time, and have come out to such great applause that maybe in the near future we'll start seeing the same thing in this subject. I
really hope so, yeah.
That I'm not going to say that the indies will solve the problem, but this discussion will start to get talked about and will start to bubble up, and there will be some success in games, and it'll probably come in the same way that horror got a revival, thanks to Amnesia, thanks to something like the Slender Man phenomenon, and the same thing will probably come out of this at like some point in the near future. And when that does come, it'll be great to see, and hopefully we'll all be able to take it in a positive light.
I certainly hope so, because this, something Megzie brings up a lot is if what's the thing you say about art?
If the art form of the 19th century is the novel and the art form of the 20th century is the film, then the art form of the 21st century is the video game.
Yeah, and like this form of art, this form of storytelling is probably by far one of the most powerful mediums to do that. And there's so much that can be done. And I'm really hoping that, in our future, I want to see it. Like, I want to see this change, because it's so powerful. And, not to get too mushy on it, but, it gives me a lot of hope to see that, that things might change and that things might get better, and that, a lot of good can come from this community, because I've seen this community do some astounding things. Like just recently, what was it? Games Done Quick.
Yeah.
SGDQ, like over like almost.
It was 1.2 and some change $million.
Yeah, for charity. It's like, if that level of community can come together to raise that for charity, like, just I'm amazed. That amazes me. It inspires me, and it makes me really happy that I'm trying to get into this community and try to be a part of it and help with it in any way I can. So I have so much hope for the future, and I can't wait to see what we're gonna do with it.
That's fantastic. I just have one last set of questions because I couldn't help but remember an old conversation I had with Megzie about probably a few months ago, and anytime I get to talk about it, I always love talking about it, and that's D&D.
Oh yeah.
Oh, D&D. My true first gaming love.
I came late into D&D, but I found it to be one of the most mind-blowing experiences I've ever had.
Right?
Same.
With a group of people, and I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on your thoughts on D&D.
I can't. I love D&D.
I think as much, as far as gaming has come, and how much is available with this medium of video games, I feel like there's still so much that can be accomplished with just people around a table with some paper and pencils and dice and stuff, and just like so much that can be accomplished in this game that's like 40 years old now. I mean, it's
aged well, sort of.
I think it's actually older than 40, but
yeah, no, it's way older.
I thought it came about in the 70s.
It may be around 40. I do believe there is a documentary soon to come out about the original creation, which is going to be pretty funny, from what I hear.
Scary Guy Dex. I still miss him.
But I remember we were talking about, and I was talking about how, all the stuff that happened with my character, and like, I feel like there's so much that can be accomplished in a tabletop RPG role playing game, and like I talked about how my character got to marry a god.
Yeah.
You'll never get that in a video game anywhere, and like,
well, D&D is so personal. I think like you can, like, I usually end up being the dungeon master, and it's a really good way to make, like, they've given you all the tools, and they've like set out all the ingredients for a story, but you're the one who has to make the story, and but you can't do it alone. You have to have characters, and everybody else makes a character. So it's this really cool, like, almost baking project of like, you're making this really great cake, and it's got swords and dragons and goblins and kobolds and whatever the heck this thing is, and just stick it all together and then make something really cool come out of it. And we've had a lot of fun with D&D.
I also feel like with D&D and maybe video games, but I know D&D specifically, is it almost becomes a kind of therapy. Like, it becomes a way to like, I know for me, struggling with mental illness, and I was talking to Rainbow about my character, the one that married a god, actually. Mm. And I was like, I realized, like, Astral actually struggled with suicide ideation for a while. And, like, it's a way for me, and I know other people too, to kind of deal with our issues in a way that's safe. And so I think that's really powerful. And, like, this character, Astral, who I created, she was a drow sorceress, like, she became kind of what I was hoping to be, is that she basically went through depression, and like really serious depression, and struggled with suicide ideation, but she came out of it, and she came out stronger, and she came out just this badass. And so it became a way for me to be like, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be able to overcome my mental illness and be stronger for it, or learn to live with it or something. So, and I know a lot of other people talk about how they deal with their past or they deal with whatever they're going through their characters. So I think it becomes kind of a way to, like I said, a form of therapy, and a fun form of therapy too.
Well, yeah, you get to kill things.
You may not even realize that you're dealing with, some crappy stuff that happened to you in the past until you realize, like, holy crap, my character was dealing with that, and so did I. So I think it's really powerful, and I really encourage anyone who's never played D&D to please go find a local gaming circle and get into a game, or
get the books yourself.
Get the books yourself
and become the DM and just
get your friends together and try and do this, because
it's worth it. It's worth there's something you can get with Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop role playing game. Like I really like the Call of Cthulhu, which is harder, but and like the White Wolf series, like any of the White Wolf games. Like, there's something that can be said about getting everybody together around a table, and you got your case of Mountain Dew and some chips, and just hang out and role play these really great characters. And you can do, and it's unlimited. You can do whatever you want with them. You can be whatever you want.
You can marry a god.
You can marry a god, which happened. And
which is funny, because in this game that we were playing, one of the players, just like my character Lester was with another player's character, and she decided that her character didn't like her anymore and broke up with her, and she had this whole thing, and then it was like, well, you know what, she's gonna marry a god.
It's like, well, we'll get the god in on it and it'll be fine, so it's there's something that can't replace that, even in the multiplayer versions of games. Like you're limited. You're still limited by You're still limited by the computer. You're still limited by like the mechanics of the game itself.
The parameters of what the developer has put in.
Yeah, but with D&D, it's literally an open sandbox, and I love open sandboxes.
All right. Like I said, that was like the last thing I really wanted to talk to you about. So thank you so much. Right now, if you just want to basically plug anything you have, just go ahead.
Let's see. Well, our Let's Play channel is Rainbow's Let's Plays.
Rainbow Punk 10.
Rainbow Punk 10 on the YouTubes. We're on Twitter and Tumblr. All the links are on my channel. Megzie does all of our art, and she has a Patreon, which is also linked on all of our social media. And
you get just for $1 a month, you get some cool stuff. You get to see you get a button. You get a cool button.
A shiny button.
You get to see all my personal non-commission work at least a week in advance. I'm going to start, I think, putting the title cards up, because I finished title cards in advance too, but I don't post them until we start playing the game. So you get to see all my stuff in advance. You get discounts on stuff. You get entered into a sketch drawing at the end of the month. It's really cool, all for just $1 a month. And if you want to donate more, there's more cool stuff that you can get. And so we're gonna start doing analysis on the channel. So we also
really?
We also have a GoFundMe campaign for Rainbow to get her own computer, because as of right now, Rainbow does not have a computer.
I don't own a computer.
She's using mine, and I mean it works kind of. It's a computer built for art, not for gaming, so it has powerful graphics capabilities, but it's still very, very cumbersome to try and record on my PC and then move it over to my laptop, which Kristen has kind of commandeered, or Rainbow, sorry.
It's okay.
But
that woman you live with.
Yeah, this lady here. She needs her own computer, and so I started a GoFundMe, and again, links can be found. Actually, it's like GoFundMe.com/Rainbow's Let's Play, like without the S.
Oh,
something like that. But yeah, links are on the channel.
I was waiting until I got my own computer to do analysis, but we've solved a slight storage problem, so I'm gonna start working on those. That'll be fun.
I think
that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right.
It's fun to talk to.
Come talk to me on Twitter.
I have cats. I'm interesting.
All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you this evening.
Thank you so much for having us. This is a lot of fun.
It's been no problem. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you girls. I've been Alistair for huge update interviews, and thank you so much to Rainbow and Megzie for joining me this night. So goodbye, and you want to say goodbye?
Bye.